Strategic Metals follows a generative model focused on early stage acquisition. Strategic is ticker SMD on the Venture Exchange. Director and CEO is Doug Eaton. Doug, welcome back to Kitco.
Hi, I'm glad to see you, Michael.
Can you thumbnail Strategic Metals? What is a generative model there, Doug?
Okay, generative model, first of all, requires access to personal experience and a lot of data. And ideally, what you do is you capitalize on that information and knowledge, recognize good acquisitions, and then spend ideally as little money as possible to advance them to the point where you can turn them over to another company that wants to take on the exploration risks. But in the process of doing that, you either want to get cash payments back that pay you handsomely or bonus you handsomely for your money's expended, or you take shares in the company so you've got good leverage on their success. And ideally, you want to retain a royalty interest to protect against the blue sky opportunity that might be lost by passing it on to someone else.
Now, pardon me, Doug, in a minute, I'm just going to ask you to choose some of your favorite children. But before we get to that, from an investor's perspective, what would be the advantage of, what would be the advantage of such a model?
Well, there's a couple. One of the advantages is that it spreads your risk out because we're not making enormous expenditures on specific properties, which usually come in at the drill stage. The risk of failure is very small in any one project. And because we have 120 plus projects in our portfolio, we can have one project fail without really damaging the overall asset base. That's very important. The other thing, though, is because we've been able to do many transactions over a number of years, we've built up a very healthy portfolio of shares in other companies. And a lot of those companies now have got advanced projects, largely in precious metals, but not exclusively. And so we get the leverage of their expenditures and the opportunity to sell if there's a good liquidity event or a takeover of those companies.
Can you highlight some of the projects, Doug?
Well, some of the ones that are really like in our portfolio right now, we've worked on it for over 30 years, amassing what I think are probably an unparalleled group of projects for critical metals. And it includes tin and tungsten and cobalt and vanadium, a real broad spectrum, lithium. And the idea there is that I think we're going to be able to put those into a vehicle here soon that I think will work out for us and for our investors. In addition to that, we've, again, using our knowledge that we've built up ever since the Casino deposit was discovered back in the 1960s, we've been able to recognize a lot of really good porphyry copper gold projects mostly in Yukon that, are I think some of the best targets in the entire Cordillera. And the thing about the Cordillera, the Northern Cordillera, is there's a lot of money flowing in from majors right now. There's a lot of interest. Projects are being taken over like Red Chris and Peridium, but there's also investments by groups like Rio Tinto at the Casino deposit. So the majors are putting their money where their mouth are in the district that we're active in.
Doug, most of Strategic Metals has got a focus around Northwestern Canada, and yourself and your team, you're a real specialist in that area.
Yeah, I've been there for 50 years, and the company that I just retired from, a consulting group called Archer Catherine Associates, actually has been there since 1965. And because of all the work we did for many, many partners and on our own right over that time period, we built up enormous databases. In fact, I'm quite confident that we have one of the largest. I'm pretty sure Tech's got a bigger one, but I think we probably have the second largest private library for Northern Canada for the BC, Northern BC and Yukon specifically.
You're talking about the investments and the interest that has been seen by the majors. I mean, we certainly saw it in 2021 with some of the big deals that happened there. But maybe you can talk about the draw. How is the infrastructure? How is the First Nations in Northwest Canada, the Yukon, and the Golden Triangle?
Well, one of the really nice things in northern BC and Yukon is a lot of the First Nations have really begun to develop infrastructure. And I think that the companies working there really have come to recognize how important it is to engage with the First Nations early and to work with them in order to get their projects explored and move toward development. And that's very positive. It's positive for the communities and it's positive for the companies because you know you're on solid footing. The majority of the First Nations in the North are very receptive to development. There also are infrastructure aspects in the North that I think are largely underappreciated. The power line that's gone to the Dease Lake area, for example, has really helped development there. The road infrastructure in Yukon is actually better than it is in many parts of northern BC. So we're not as remote and as cut off as people would think. And of course, with improved telecommunications, no longer takes several days to get the message from the field to the head office. It can happen instantaneously. So we're pretty happy with the progress that's being made.
And never mind some recent operating mines like Victoria and Alexco that have gone up. Doug, can you tell us about the capital structure at Strategic?
Okay, right now we've got just under 108 million shares outstanding, and on a fully diluted basis, that goes up to about 127 million. Our market cap right now is a little over 40 million. Of course, it fluctuates, but it's about $42 million today. We've got about $7 million in the treasury, and that money is there's no debt attached to it at all. So it's free. There's no flow-through commitments or anything. It's free cash. But then on top of that, we've got more than $30 million worth of shares in other companies that when there's liquidity, we're quite willing to sell some of those shares. They're all there as investments. We're not looking to control the various projects. We think we've, as I said, if we see a good opportunity to sell some shares, we will.
What are some catalysts over the next 12 months, Doug?
Next 12 months. Well, there's a number actually. I'm very, very optimistic that we'll do a number of transactions. We've got some that are actually being papered now, which we'll be announcing when they're completed. In addition to that, some of the companies we're working with, Rockhaven Resources is going to be doing another large drill program, and I think that they're going to be able to take their Claza silver gold project to pre-feasibility in the next year. Another company that we're working with, actually right out of Yukon, it's down in Nevada, a company called JGL Resources is working on a very promising gold project down there. One of the most interesting and probably most disruptive opportunities or potentially disruptive opportunities we're involved with is of all things, a company called Terra CO2, which is working on an alternative to Portland cement. And they're making, I think, some very substantial progress. And I wish I could say more about it. They're trying to do it in a stealth manner, and we're tied up by very tight confidentiality clauses, but they're making great progress. And finally, we were lucky enough to be involved in the creation of a new private vehicle that I think will go public sometime this year called Broden Mining. Broden is working with Ross River Denny Corp, the local First Nation, Ross River Denny Council, sorry, the local First Nation, to potentially redevelop the old Faro mining camp. Less than 50% of the ore that was identified in that camp was mined. There's a lot of high-grade, open-pittable lead, zinc, and silver and gold there that they'll be taking a look at. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what Donald McGinnis and his team can do with that. So those are four opportunities specifically that come to mind, but there's a lot more in the portfolio than just those.
Doug, thanks for speaking with Kitco.
Thank you very much.
He's Doug Eaton. He is CEO and Director of Strategic Metals. Next, let's learn a little bit more about strategic metals.
Welcome to the Invest Yukon Tour for Strategic Metals. My name is Doug Eaton. I'm the CEO of Strategic Metals. Strategic Metals is a very unusual company. We've got direct and indirect interests in projects all across North America, but we focus primarily on Yukon. And why? Because Yukon is a very unusual jurisdiction. It's blessed with wonderful mineral potential, and our group has fantastic experience in that territory. Three major mineral belts transect the territory. One is the Circum-Pacific Porphyry System. It extends all around the Pacific Ocean and includes some of the largest porphyry deposits in the world. Secondly, we sit along the Northern Cordilleran Gold Province, which extends through northern BC up into Alaska. And again, one of the major gold provinces in the world. There's about 10% of the world's resources there. And third, along the eastern part of the territory is the Western Marginal Basin lead-zinc deposits, and those include some of the richest undeveloped lead-zinc deposits in the world. In the Porphyry province, we've got about 12 projects present. They include one project in BC and a number in Yukon. Some of the grassroots projects I think are particularly attractive because they're near known deposits, they have strong geochem anomalies, and have seen little drilling in the past. And what drilling has been done has been very encouraging. We also have a more advanced project, the Hopper, which is farmed out to a company called CAVU Minerals. CAVU announced some very encouraging results this past summer, including over 22 meters, grading better than 1.4% copper and half a gram gold. In the gold space, we've got a number of really promising projects. They include both grassroots and more advanced projects. An example is the Mount Hinton project, where we've got spectacular bonanza grades for both silver and gold from a vein system that encompasses an area 8 kilometers by 5 kilometers. We expect to do a lot more work there in the next few years. Advanced projects include Rockhaven, which we own 33% of, who are working on a silver, gold rich porphyry system that's flanked by veins. And they've got a very robust economics at that project, and we expect again to see results of drilling that was done in 2021 soon. Finally, lead zinc. Okay, why lead zinc? Well, zinc prices have gone through the roof, and the Western Marginal Basin is one of the great places in the world to look for lead and zinc. Our exposure there is highlighted by our interest in Broden Mining, a new company, still private. We own 40% of it. It's working with the Ross River Denny Council to negotiate an agreement with Canada and redevelop what was once the most important lead zinc camp in Yukon and one of the most important in the world. There's good resources still in the ground there. In fact, the number of deposits on the property, they combined contain over 5.5 billion pounds of zinc, 3.5 billion pounds of lead, 111 million ounces of silver, and almost 1 million ounces of gold. And the exploration potential is wonderful. So just to recap, why strategic metals? First, we have over $7 million in our treasury with no debt and no significant obligations hanging over us. Second, we've got $20 million worth of shares of other companies that we can liquidate when the market is right. Third, we've got a fantastic portfolio of properties, over 100 mineral projects that we've vetted and continually improving as we do our exploration. So we think we're incredibly well leveraged to the bull market for metals that I think we're currently in, and we really look forward to the next few years. Thank you very much.